Now joining me on the conversation to speak on this, we have Ibidolapo Ajayi. He's an African and global affairs analyst. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
All right, to begin with, how do you see the recent wave of Nigerians winning political offices abroad? You know, we had Dr. Oye Owolewa's re-election in Washington, D.C., Yemi Mobolade's historic election as mayor of Colorado Springs. What do these victories say about the growing influence of the Nigerian diaspora?
Thank you for having me. I think it portrays a good image for Nigeria in the diaspora, and basically it also helps to reinforce the fact that we have a lot of Nigerians succeeding at very high levels outside of our homeland. It's a good thing, you know, because a lot of these folks have integrated into the system for so many years and started from the grassroots to be a part of their community, and have really given their all to the communities within which they serve. And now seeing them being elevated to high office in the United States and in Australia, since the case of Sheikh Kabari, is a great development, and just basically enforces the notion that Nigeria is blessed with people of high intellect and great resource.
Today's election as the first black mayor of Colorado Springs is a historic movement. Now, how do you see this victory, you know, impacting the broader conversation, especially that about race and representation in the U.S. politics, particularly in local government?
It's a great development. Mayor Yemi has really been a voice for people in Colorado Springs, and I believe that also having a multicultural family also helped them, because I believe his wife is not African. So it's really been something that he has, as a businessman prior to becoming mayor, has always been part of the community. It helps to broaden the discussions around race, especially since Colorado Springs have more of a Republican lean, and Republicans tend to be seen as not too welcoming of black folk. So that's a great plus for that city, and it's just testament to the fact that America is indeed a melting pot. But I think it also boils down to the personality. He has been known as someone that has a broad reach to people across the aisle. I think he also stood as an independent. So basically he has the ability to relate to both sides, especially Democrats and Republicans, when it comes to issues that will help to develop his community and his city, Colorado Springs. So it's a great development for sure.
All right, let's briefly touch on Dr. Oye Owolewa's re-election as the shadow representative of the District of Columbia, which is a major step. And for him to get re-elected, it means he must have actually done something right. Now, what role does his position play, especially when it comes to advocating for the interest of the Nigerian and also the African-American communities?
For Dr. Owolewa, he has always been plugged into the local politics, especially as DC is where the seat of government is in the United States. For him, I believe his main remit is to advocate for the city, for the district in which he's serving, not as much for Nigerians, because if you think of it, the District of Columbia doesn't really have any statehood, if you like. It's not regarded as a state in the United States. So for him, it's all about fighting and trying to push the agenda for that recognition so that they can have more of a say in the decisions made that affects this country. As far as Nigeria, I don't see much changing because he's really not there to speak much to Nigerian issues, but more to the issues of the District of Columbia.
Okay, now you talked about him, you know, speaking more of the Nigerian issues, but is there any significance to his re-election for future generations of Nigerian Americans?
Well, absolutely. You know, this enforces the soft power and national image of Nigeria, again, that, you know, this can be achieved But if you look at it on the negative, he also portrays the fact of people, that could potentially have been influential and add more value to Nigeria as a country, now doing that in the diaspora. So there has to be a lot of inflection, as in why are we seeing a lot of this happening in the diaspora when these young folk that could really be blessings to the country itself, to the homeland, we're seeing them here doing great stuff, So it is really encouraging because it means a lot more Africans here in the diaspora can get into politics and have a say in how we are governed. And we're beginning to see a lot more of that because with several generations now, having been part of, for example, the United States where we are, you are beginning to see children of immigrants now fully involved in the say of how they are governed. So it's a good development, but again, kind of just reflects on all the issues we've had with people leaving the homeland to come and seek greener pastures in the diaspora.
All right, Mr. Ajayi. Now let's talk on Chiaka Barry. She was elected into the Australian Capital Territory Legislative Assembly, which is a big one, a huge one. And she has a strong background in law and policy. How do you think her legal and advocacy skills will shape her political career in Australia? And what does her election signify for Nigerian women in politics globally?
It's a great development for Chiaka Barry. If you look at her history, she emigrated to Australia in 2008. So basically, she is relatively new in that environment. And for her to have been able to rise very quickly to this position in Canberra is a great result. Testament to our own tenacity and a desire to be an impactful voice in politics in Australia. Now, as for Nigerian women, it's a great development. Also speaks to the recent rise of Kemi Badenoch in the UK as a leader of the Conservative Party. And it is, again, we have people who are capable of leading on several levels, whether they be men or women. And it really speaks to how blessed Nigeria is as a country to have folk that can, come out of the country and be in these different positions in the diaspora and be recognized. I think she was also voted as one of the most influential people in Canberra. So she is a real voice to be reckoned with in that part of the world. Okay.
Now, Segun Adeyino's re-election, as state representative of a district in Georgia, speaks to the increasing political engagement of Nigerians in the U.S. We did touch on one of them, but looking at his background or experience in IT and project management, how does it translate into his effectiveness as a state representative, and what can other Nigerian professionals learn from his journey?
Segun is somebody whose family I know a little bit, and he has always been plugged into issues that affect Nigeria. And from when he used to organize Nigerian Union events over 20 years ago, and to getting plugged into the local politics in Georgia. And what we are seeing today is not just a fluke. He has been part of local politics in Gwinnett County, where he's based, till date. And from advocating at the school board level to now being a state representative, he has always had a desire to serve and to see change in the African American community. So this speaks a lot because he definitely is a beacon of light for those that seek to walk in his shoes. And I think he has a big future. This is just another step for him. I'll be expecting that he will be trying to go national, to go to the federal level very soon, because he's a determined man, and I see him becoming probably a member of the House of Representatives in the United States Congress at some time in the near future. But he speaks very well to the possibilities if you believe in what you're doing and you apply yourself to it. And I wish Segun the very best in the position.
Absolutely. We wish them all the best as well. Now, the victories of these Nigerians, reflect not only individual success, but also the larger impact of the Nigerian diaspora, especially when it comes to reshaping political landscapes abroad. How has the Nigerian diaspora historically influenced politics in countries like the US, Australia, and the UK? And how are these successes further advancing that influence?
Right. Good question. Typically, their first job basically is to their community, is to the districts and communities that elect them into positions of power to influence issues that affect their lifestyle. So my expectation is that they will be serving their communities first, and before they actually look outside to see how they can influence any issue, for example, in other countries. So for these folks, they will be looking to make policies or help fashion policies that make differences to people's lives wherever they are serving. So that is their first job. Now, it should serve as an inspiration to people in the diaspora that this is possible if you really, really want it and you apply yourself to it and willing to do the hard work it requires to get to these levels. And hopefully we see more folks getting involved in politics that are from the homeland, to be more involved in politics. And there's a lot more people coming. We're just saying this for those two in the United States. Actually, 3 in the United States and 1 in Australia. There are a lot more people that we have not yet heard of that are competing and that are really, really plugged into the system here and looking to seek elective posts. So expect to see more names like those we are talking about in the near future.
All right, now you talked about, a lot more have actually succeeded in their own careers. And I seem to remember, so many of them have, especially the one before this, that's Yemi Mobolade, who, was also elected. And we're seeing so many more Nigerians in leadership positions abroad, but are there challenges that these people actually face that are unique to the diaspora experience? How do issues like identity, race, and also belonging, affect their political careers and relationships with their host countries' populations?
Those are real issues that people, from back home who are here face on a daily basis. But you have to see beyond that. You have to, if you plug yourself into your community and you are integrated into your community and they see your heart and they know you are really about making a change and serving the people, people tend to care more about what you are able to do for them than where you come from, if they know that you are genuinely seeking to do something that will be in the best interest of your community. So in a way, if those barriers exist, definitely these 4 folks have not seen it. Or if they've seen it, they've found a way to overcome it. And that should serve as an inspiration to whoever is looking to walk in their shoes, that it is possible. If they can get there, surely more people can. So that should be the message that should be going out to anyone that's seeking a position of power or elective office, whether it's here in the United States, Australia, the United Kingdom, or wherever else you can find.
But Mr. Ajayi, are you saying that there is a shift in how Nigerians are viewed in their respective countries of residence? Because I seem to remember that Nigerians in the diaspora often speak about the challenges of, balancing their Nigerian heritage with, other realities, even if it's political, of their adopted countries.
There is. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And we're talking about politics now, but we are everywhere, whether it's medicine, just name it, any industry. In the diaspora, we will find a Nigerian influence. You will find someone that's excelled in that industry. So there's definitely a shift. We have been able to, balance being Nigerian with living in countries that typically we would think will not welcome us. And that also speaks to how well we've been able to integrate, because you cannot come to these countries and act as if you are still back in Nigeria. You have to understand the culture within the country that you are living in, and basically mesh your identity and keep your identity within that and be able to find ways to succeed. So there is definitely a shift. We don't come, and when you think about it, a lot of these folks obviously have become citizens of these new countries that we live in. So it's not a case of coming into the United States and acting like you are still in Nigeria. Now you have to understand how things work. And basically when you apply yourself to that and work, and put the work in, you see these results. So there is going to be more, like I said, more people coming through the system who have adjusted, who have integrated, and who are willing to do the work to get into these offices.
Okay. Now, what about roles that organizations like NiDCOM actually play, especially in encouraging and supporting Nigerians abroad to engage politically? Do you think that these platforms are effectively leveraging the growing political influence of Nigerians globally?
That's an interesting question, because for me, it almost feels as if these platforms or these agencies, they are good at recognizing successes abroad that Nigerians are making, but I'm not sure if they've contributed anything to the success of, for example, these 4 individuals. I mean, it's hard to find that record or that impact. It pretty much just reminds me of an uncle that's willing to accept your success, or quick to accept and identify your success, but didn't contribute to your achieving it. So for me, I don't know if they've had any impact at all, other than identifying with the successes of these people and basically hoping that has some impact positively on Nigeria. And I sure hope it does, because again, it reflects well for Nigeria. That our national image is being improved when Nigerians are being seen on this kind of level. But as far as the platform's influence, I doubt if there's been any. And I hope they do find ways to connect with all these Nigerians that are succeeding across the world, and find ways to leverage their experience to better improve the lives of Nigerians in the diaspora.
All right, now still talking on, speaking on recognition, just before we wrap up this talk, there have been significant media attention, around the successes of Nigerian Americans in the U.S. politics, especially with the rise of, these politicians that we've actually talked about. How important is the media's portrayal of these figures, in shaping the perception of these people in their countries of residence?
Very, very important. That cannot be overstated, because, in recent times, image has always been attached to negative issues, either people that have been involved in some level of crime. And that has been something that people have used to view Nigerians as people that are not honest in their endeavors. But having folk like these 4 people we've been talking about, get to the level they are in politics and in advocacy is very, very important. And with the media exposure that they're getting, it also helps to polish our image, and that, we do have people that excel and are able to do things at a very high level and impact the communities where they live, rather than just the other side of it. So for me, I hope we get more media coverage for these folks and for many more that are coming through the system, working in their states.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Ibidolapo Ajayi, African Global Affairs Analyst, for your time and for speaking to us on this.
Thank you for having me.